Welcome back to Stu Structures. We're here for video 13 in the coaling tower build, so stay tuned. So welcome back and welcome to my new subscribers. We are here to continue the coaling tower. I said in the last video, I thought, when I was midway done building this, by now we would have been finished with this. And I keep seeing detail and things to add to this building. And in the last video, we started a few extra little things that I hadn't counted on. So we're going to continue on with that in this building and see how far we get in this episode. Just jump into this. Now we are going to continue with all the handrails coming down around the building, and I showed this picture several times, but you can see the upper piece we had on, but we've got all this other stuff below to add. And I had left off with this, second piece of handrail with the stanchions going onto it, and I need to come back and put all the handrails on that. And we had left this top section up here just mounted to the building, but it still needs all the supports and everything underneath of it. So, it's just a long process. Before I could put that upper staircase on there, I had to put this little piece of conduit off this light because it was going to be behind the stairs when I mounted them in there. And you saw how I put together all these lights, and so we need to come through and put a lot more of these lights onto the building as well. There's a whole bunch of those to mount. And I had painted silver all this round styrene, really tiny round styrene, to use as conduits. So we've got to come back and replace all the conduits where they go around the rest of the building. And to do that, I needed extra junction boxes, so I had made up all these junction boxes, and now we need to just come through and put the rest of all this onto the building. And I showed where this first piece of conduit was on underneath this coaling tower here, but I need to continue on from that section there. So I go to the right hand side of that, and out on the very corner I put another junction box where that one from around the corner came to that, and then this conduit came from that to the center lights in the last piece that I showed you there. And then coming on to the other side or other end of that same side of the building, I put this other piece in there out to a junction box on the corner, which would have turned to go back along where the electrical system will go on that corner. And this one underneath this small, the back area of coaling area, I went ahead and brought this to a conduit junction box out close to the corner. Now on the other side of the building that gets lights the same as that other side. So I come back here and mount these two lights over top the large coaling area that has the two tracks. This one that goes under that single stall of the coaling shed. And this just would have given a lot of light for the people adding sand into the locomotives. And then we added this one over top of the area where the cars come into to load coal and sand into the unit. And then there's one more light that gets to be added, and it's up above this little tiny open door that gets that secondary platform up above. So I went ahead and mounted that light up there as well. And then once all those are lighted, I've got to come back just the same as the other side and start mounting conduit to all the lights so that we can get electric to them. Now, like I said, these aren't actually going to work, but I want to make them look like, they had power coming to them and the original building had conduit on it. So I just go from one junction box on a light to another junction box on a light and add the next piece in, and here I put another junction box out there on the corner, and I'm just going to come back and add another piece of conduit in there. Now I'm not sure these lights on this back side of the building exactly how I'm going to run the conduit to that power box on the other side of the building. I may just have it disappear through the walls, but I really haven't made up my mind yet. But at least all the conduit is now on this side of the building as well as the other side. Now, one of the next things I need to worry about, or not worry about, but work on is, getting these other platforms finished to go. Up here is one that I had already started before, but I need to get handrails and stuff on it. And this is the way I had left it in the last episode, with just the stanchions glued to the platform. So I need to come back and just start putting all the handrails on this. I had got all this new plastic in, and a lot of this I'm just going to use and go ahead and put it on for handrails. I'll explain a little bit what happened with some of the new plastic I got. But on this back side, I'm going to use one of that tiny pieces there. And remember, the wall is at an angle and not straight up and down. So I'm just going to add this tiny piece to the very top edge of this flat end of the platform, so I can kind of give it an angle to mount to that wall. And I come back and just start adding all the handrails on, the two flat sides here on the front facing side of it, and just come back and start adding the other handrails on the ends. And this does have a stairwell that comes off of this and goes down. So, I'm kind of leaving this a little undone. And once I mount the stairs to the front of this, then I will come back and add more to it later. But on this one, my mistake. This is the one that gets the ladder that comes up to it. So that open end there is where the ladder meets from the lower platform down below and comes up to this one. And then I just paint the whole thing, get ready to mount on the wall. Once again, I want to go ahead and, just get some more of this conduit done. I don't want to reach across this platform to work on this stuff that's flat against the wall. So I just go ahead and get, this piece of conduit mounted on there out to that junction box on the corner that I had on there previously. And I come back and I mount this platform underneath that opening on that wall. And this other platform I showed you at the beginning that was in this state here, this attaches to walkways on the top side there, and on the lower side it gets another ladder coming off of it. And I got in this 20 by 40 plastic. And as much as you pay for this plastic, which is really ridiculous in my book for the amount of plastic you get, but okay, I'm willing to do that. But the 2 packs I got of that, you can see how this is the same piece and both ends of the same piece looped into my fingers. And look how much smaller the one end is than the other. And both packs, all of them are this way. So, I just use the wide end of all those strips, and I'm just going to have to leave the small ends for odd projects and not use half of what I bought. But I came back and started working on all the handrails. And, that top side, it isn't quite finished, and that lower side between my fingers is where the other pieces mount to it. And I'm going to build those in place once I get those mounted on the building. So I left some paint off of those and left some handrails a little undone, but I came back and put all the paint on that, and then it's ready to go ahead and mount on the building. Now the other piece of conduit that I want to put that's behind that on that wall is this real long piece that comes from where that door was up above and comes down and meets a junction box down below. And then that piece I put on that door that you saw earlier, this I put on earlier, but this piece comes from that junction box from above that open door and platform and connects to this other piece of, pipe that comes down from that doorway. So I got those on so I could go ahead and mount this stairwell in place. Once those are on, that's the only thing standing in my way of going ahead and mounting this other stairwell that I had put together and painted. So I go ahead and add this next assembly on. And up above, I'm just going to have to work with that a little bit. Now between this platform and that upper platform that I had put on there was a ladder that went between the two. So I found this piece of ladder and I'm just holding it into place to figure out how tall I want it to be. You can see down there in the bottom, I'm not sure, this building wasn't actually this way in Grafton, but the wall bends down there. So I just cut some 45s in the back of this ladder so that I can make this bend to fit the wall. And then, like all the other ladders that I've put on this building, I find some angle, and I'm just going to cut some support pieces so that I can mount this to the wall. So I go through and cut a bunch of these, and I'm going to pre-glue them to the ladder. That way, once they're on there, it's easier to paint and not come back and scratch paint off and glue them like I have some of the other things. You learn as you go. I make everything up on the fly, it seems like. But once I have all those angles mounted on there, then I go ahead out and just go ahead and spray paint this black and get it ready to mount to the wall. And once I bring it back in and the paint dries while I'm working on other things, and I can come back and make that little bend at the bottom and go ahead and glue this onto the wall. Then I have my ability to go from the lower platform to the upper platform to get work done on the inside. Now I have a couple of other platforms that I made this one earlier, but it ended up being too small, so I'm going to have to make this wider one here. So I'm just holding this up in place and giving me an idea. And this one I cut to the length for where that electrical unit is going to be on the end of the wall. So these two I need to go ahead and make the same way as I did all of the other platforms. And remember, just to be able to glue these to the wall so there's a bigger surface area, and to be able to glue stanchions to the front of these, I'm going to have to wrap these in a wider plastic. And I turn them upside down, so as I glue these on, the top side of this is all going to be flush with the grate on the top side. And I glue the ends on here, and you can see I let them run rampant on the ends, and then I come back and cut them off flush with the plastic so they're nice and even. Then I cut these other sides and add those to the front and back of these. And once I come back and cut those off, then I have the basic part of these in place. Now the one under the door I'm going to hold off on for a little bit because I need to build some other stairs and ladders coming to that. But this one for the electrical area I can go ahead and get done. So I come back and I'm going to mount the stanchions on this, and it only needs stanchions on the face of this. It doesn't need them on the ends. So once I get the stanchions on, I come back and put the handrails on, and then this is ready for paint. So I just take it outside and I rattle can this. I'd hand painted some of the stairwells, and I just decided to go ahead and rattle can these. The paint ended up not being too bulky to fill in the open grate. That's what I was kind of worried about. And where that mounts, and while the paint's drying on that end, I'm going to go ahead and build this ladder that comes up to that platform. So I just hold the ladder in place here to figure out my height for it. And I pre-painted this black before I added these angles on, like just another duh case. And so I'd have to scrape a little bit of paint off once I go through and cut all these angles for brackets to mount that to that wall. And once I glue those on there, then I come back and repaint them black as well again. And I come back and I'm just going to mount this to that end wall. Now the top on this, I would like to have the ladder this height, but where I put the junction box and the conduit behind it doesn't allow it to really set good to the wall. So I just come back and cut that off, and I'm going to have to make a couple more angle pieces to mount the top of this to the wall. So I just go ahead and cut those and paint them, and while the paint's drying up on this, I'm working on other things. And one of those other things that I'm going to do is just come back and add that platform, now that the paint is dry, onto that end wall. So that's, coming together for this end. We still have to add all the conduit and junction boxes and the little power coming into the building up above on a big cable of some sort. But, I come back then once that's mounted to the wall and put these angles on that ladder, and that's at least that part of this section in place. So there you have video 13 in the series of building the Coling Tower. I never would have dreamed it would have taken this many videos to build this tower, especially since I had it pre-started, from years ago to start from. in any case, it is coming along, and I kept adding a few things to it here and there, and as you turn this thing around now, there's a lot of interest to all the sides of the building, which it's what I look for in building any building. I don't want to just see a flat wall with nothing but a window in it. And this definitely is getting a lot of detail around the building. That's what brings all your structures to life. The more detail you can put in it, the less people notice the little mistakes in it, like I have in mine. I'm not really a rivet counter. There's people out there that could have built this building, and it could have been more, picturesque, I guess is what you could use the term. But if you take a picture of it, you'd have to look at it for a while, like I've said in some other videos, to determine whether it's real or not. But this one, there's places you see a little bit glue, and things are just slightly misaligned or things like that. I mean, they're not enough to make it major, stand out and hit you in the head with a club type of thing. And some of them I will come back as I finish off this building and touch things up, some paint over glue, things like that, to make it look a little better as well. At least the real obvious things. I've said before, I just build things to give the flavor of. This definitely gives more than the flavor of the coaling tower that was in Grafton. There's a whole lot of detail on this. It really brings this thing to life and makes it interesting to look at. And that's what I go for in all my builds, is all the detail. That's just paramount in building any building. It really is. In any case, I don't know, we'll see where we go into the next video. Maybe one more we can finish this. It's still got, not a whole lot to do, but there's some backtracking and finishing things I've kind of left undone, and a little bit of weathering. I've done a little here and there, but I would like to do a little bit more weathering on this, and paint touch-ups and things like that. So, we'll see where we go from here. In any case, thank you for coming back and sharing this time with me. I do appreciate it greatly. I really do. And all the comments out there, I appreciate those. And, somebody had asked me for a special build, and I'm looking at the possibility of maybe doing that as well. It is something that I can use for scenery on my layout. He didn't ask me to build it for him. He just asked me if I could build one. I think he wants to figure out how to build one for himself. And it is something that I could use as a background detail on my layout eventually. So I may go ahead and build that as well as an extra build in my series of building buildings. So in any case, I'm rambling on. I'm going to jump off of here, grab some stuff and scratch build. That's the key to everything, and you'll have so much satisfaction from your layout when it's done if you've built things yourself and put them on there instead of just buying kits or pre-made buildings. Jump out there and grab some scratch building materials and scratch build. Happy model railroading.